Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. As early as 2017, I began talking to President Donald Trump about declassifying all of the closely held documents regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. There was a law passed in the late 90s that mandated that they would be released in 2017 unless the president held them back. The president subsequently decided to release about 80% of the material, but then Mike Pompeo, the Central Intelligence Agency director, persuaded him to hold back 20% of the material. Now, the president has decided to release it all, and he's announced that on the official White House website. Therefore, last night I did an epic discussion with Alex Jones on the Alex Jones Network about what's in these documents. I think we've already established with an audio tape that broke news 10 days ago that Lyndon Johnson was the man at the helm of the plot to kill Kennedy, a plot that included the Central Intelligence Agency, organized crime, the banks, as well as other entities. Before we bring you that incredible interview, I'm going to go to this quick commercial message. So the real question here is, are the globalists gearing up for a pandemic scare after failing at the ballot box in November? Just weeks before President Trump's inauguration, California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a bird flu. He called it a state of emergency, granting himself sweeping powers very reminiscent of the COVID-19 policies. This comes after a severe case of H5N1 bird flu was reported in Louisiana. Critics like Nicholas Hulsher warn that pandemic fears may be weaponized to challenge Trump's agenda and to threaten the nomination of RFK Jr. to lead HHS. Is this a health crisis or is it a power play? Last summer, Dr. Peter McCullough warned about the bird flu, linking the virus's rapid spread to gain-of-function research, now a common practice at many labs globally. Dr. McCullough urges early prevention just in case, and that's why we're recommending a contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company. This is his medical board-approved solution with 5 critical life-saving medications like ivermectin, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, and hydroxychloroquine. Every household can now have access to these difficult-to-get medications in the event of another pandemic. You can get yours by filling out a digital intake form, and your kit arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. Now, don't wait until the deep state puts their plans into action. Stay ready for the unexpected. You can do it now by heading to twc.health/rstone. That's twc.health/rstone. And then please use promo code RSTONE to save $30 and get free shipping. Get prepped with ivermectin, all these life-saving medications at the Wellness Company. This is for U.S. residents only, but you'll be glad you did. Please act today. And now I bring you our epic broadcast from last night. It is really taken the internet by storm. We are breaking the internet with this news. And when we come back, my co-host, Troy Smith at slingshot.news, will close the show with breaking news.
All right, I'm going to shut up now and give Roger Stone the floor to get into JFK, the deep dive. He's one of the top experts in the world. and of course, worked for so many presidents, but you got cut off, your connection cut. You were finishing up with the World War III play against Trump, what he's planning to do to shut this down, NATO creating the Northern Group, trying to block it, attacking nuclear reactors in Russia with a 100-drone attack last night, bragging about it. I mean, that seems to be one of their big plays, not just attacking the U.S. economy, to the Federal Reserve. Finish up with that, and then I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen to you get into JFK and your best-selling book that's been totally vindicated.
Well, Alex, as I said, my number one fear is yet another assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now he has control of the Secret Service, thank God. I was very happy when he decided to move his swearing in into the rotunda. I was worried about being sworn out in public. First of all, it was bitter cold. But beyond that, the security nightmare of trying to protect the president under those circumstances gnawed at me. I think he made a very solid decision. Clearly, they're still trying to goad him into war. Biden did everything possible on his way out the door to get as much money out the door to Ukraine. As I was saying, I think before our audio cut off, I think we're going to find very shortly that a number of major American politicians in both parties had foreign bank accounts into which millions of dollars flowed out of this Ukrainian aid. This is coming. It's going to be public. It's going to be public very soon. This, I think, was their two-pronged play to try to stop Trump, and I do think it will fail. That piece of tape that you played, this is perhaps the single most historic thing that Alex Jones and InfoWars have ever done. This is a complicated question, and some people, those who haven't read my book, perhaps think that what we are saying, or what I was saying, is that Lyndon Johnson is solely responsible for the murder of Kennedy. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that John Kennedy was killed as a result of a plot that was run and organized by Lyndon Johnson at the helm. His immediate motive is very clear. He's under investigation in the Billy Saul Estes investigation and the Bobby Baker investigation. Billy Saul Estes is a flamboyant Texas wheeler dealer. Johnson has delivered multi-million-dollar agricultural contracts to him that are fraudulent, and Johnson is taking huge payoffs. Bobby Baker is the Secretary of the U.S. Senate. Johnson describes him as my strong right arm. He's the bag man for Lyndon Johnson. So Johnson knows, because Robert Kennedy, the Attorney General, has begun telling people, we're jumping Johnson from the ticket in '64. He is going to prison. Certainly he's gotten back to LBJ. He is a man staring into the abyss. In his view, it is kill or be incarcerated for the rest of his life. It is Johnson who argues that Kennedy should go to Texas. It is Johnson who argues that the purpose of the trip to Dallas is to bind up the division in the Texas Democrat Party between the progressive wing run by Senator Ralph Yarborough, hated by LBJ, and the Bourbon conservative wing of the Democrat Party, as exemplified by Governor John Connally. How interesting that on the night before the assassination, Johnson goes to JFK's hotel room in Fort Worth and argues for a change in the motorcade that would put Senator Yarborough in the death car with John Kennedy and allow the governor, John Connally, later a Republican, by the way, the man responsible for talking Richard Nixon into abandoning the gold standard and into having wage and price controls, Nixon's probably his two greatest mistakes, into Johnson's car. And JFK refuses, recognizing that the whole purpose is having the president.
And Roger, I want you to get into all this since in your book and you've been vindicated, but what do you make of this tape coming out? And then just separately, you know the mechanics. Everybody's like, where's the documents? Trump signed the order last Tuesday. Explain to people the law, the 15 days, and what you've been told. You tried to say it earlier and got cut off about how many documents we're about to see and your breaking news on that.
I guess the larger point here is that with the release of that audio, You have nailed one of the most important parts of the conspiracy. This confirms what my book shows. Mac Wallace's fingerprints are found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building. How do we know this? Because in 1951, Mac Wallace is convicted of first-degree murder in Texas because he shot and killed a man named Douglas Kinzer, who was trying to blackmail Johnson over the 1948 election. So now take one aspect of it. Now, the Central Intelligence Agency, Lyndon Johnson, as the Senate Majority Leader, takes the unprecedented step of appointing himself to the Subcommittee of Defense Appropriations. The Majority Leader never sits on a committee, but Johnson is on the committee where the secret black box budgets of the CIA are prepared and increased. Johnson is the paymaster for the CIA. The CIA's motive? They believe that the Bay of Pigs invasion is a disaster because of Kennedy. But the plan given to JFK, Alex, calls for 29 Panamanian flag fighter jets flown by Cuban pilots to provide air cover for the men storming the beach. The problem is that Charles Cable, the brother of Dallas Mayor Earl Cable, a Johnson crony, cancels that air cover for the men storming the beach, therefore causing the disaster. When Curtis LeMay goes to JFK and says there's only one way to save the day, and that is to send in the Air Force, Kennedy refuses. This is why Kennedy distrusts the CIA. Then secondarily, there's the myth of the the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were told in numerous movies that brave Jack and Bobby Kennedy faced down Nikita Khrushchev and he removed the missiles. We now know, because of declassified documents, 50 years later, we find out that they made a secret deal with Khrushchev to remove U.S. NATO missiles from Italy and Turkey in return for a pledge to remove the Cuban missiles from Cuba. Therefore, the CIA's motive is clear. They think Kennedy has botched both of these operations. Then there's organized crime. Now, the House Select Committee on Assassinations in the late 70s is entirely staffed by people who are experts in organized crime. We know that Ambassador Joseph P. Kennedy, John Kennedy's father, has taken $1 million from the mob in return for a commitment that the Kennedy administration will not deport Carlos Marcello, who runs the mob at that time in Texas and Louisiana, and Santo Traficante, who runs the mob in Florida. And they are double-crossed by Attorney General Robert Kennedy, who continues to seek their deportation. So the mob's motive is clear. And one of the shooters, and there are multiple shooters, as I will get into, is representing the mob. Now you have Big Texas Oil. They are apoplectic about the fact that JFK wants to repeal the oil depletion allowance. Who owns the Texas School Book Depository building? D.H. Byrd, the single largest donor to Lyndon Johnson. Alex, he is so happy about the death of Kennedy. He takes the encasement of the window from which those shots were fired, and he mounts it in his living room as a trophy. I kid you not. So you have nailed Johnson's involvement. I just explained the CIA's involvement. In this upcoming data dump, the CIA's fate will be sealed. As you know, the law that was passed in the late 90s required the total release of all these classified documents in the first year of Donald Trump's presidency. I brought it to his attention. I said, Mr. President, what are you going to do about the JFK documents? He said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, these documents are scheduled to be released unless you object. You have to object, some of them, all of them. But this date is fast approaching. He said, no, how come no one's mentioned this to me? I said, I don't know. Why don't you look into it? He came back to me and he said, well, you were right. I've got to make a decision about these documents. What do you think? I said, it's time to release everything. It's time for the American people to know. And at that point, it had been more than 50 years. And he, in the end, released about 80% of the documents. What did we find? Number of interesting things. A memo from FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover to Lyndon Johnson saying that the KGB had conducted an exhaustive investigation into Kennedy's murder, and they had concluded that the ringleader was Lyndon Baines Johnson. We also learned that French intelligence had conducted an investigation, and they had concluded that the murderer, the ringleader of this conspiracy that involved the CIA, organized crime, Big Texas Oil, the banking interests opposed to Kennedy because he was for a silverback dollar, was the perp. We found Lee Harvey Oswald's 1099. Alex, he was on the payroll of the FBI. The FBI.
Roger, stop there. Total vindication of you, and I'm not just saying this, you're a good friend of mine, because I know everybody. You are the greatest, other than Jim Garrison, JFK investigator, and then you've got Oliver Stone as a close third. We're not trying to, like, I would say you are. Notice Roger's really going here. He knows so much. He can talk for 10 hours. But I should have asked you this. I know you advised Trump. You never talk about inside baseball. But how was Trump convinced? Remember, he ordered them to release it, and they fought him on it 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Yeah, did I just hear you talking about how you convinced Trump to release this?
I recommended releasing it all. I actually thought he was going to release it all. Then he released about 80% of it, holding back 20. And when I asked him why he decided to do that, he told me, and by the way, he also told Judge Andrew Napolitano the same thing, and he told this to Sean Hannity just 3 nights ago, that Mike Pompeo, the CIA director, convinced him not to release 20% because it would expose the methods and sources of the agency. And
by the way, Pompeo, as you know, went on TV a week ago and bragged about that. So I love how Pompeo just got his security details pulled and everything. So we don't wish him any harm, but he's Trump really, we were worried months ago when Trump had him at a campaign event. We said, what is he doing? Keep the enemies closer. God, there's so many angles here. So, wow. As much, I know you never get into you and Trump behind the scenes, but this is historic. I mean, I know you're lobbying him on this. You got him convinced 5 years ago. Pompeo convinced him not to release it all. Talk about that. And then, because this is historic. And then what are we expecting to get, and how big is this data dump?
See, Alex, I think this covers the CIA part. It's kind of obvious. If Mike Pompeo is arguing against the release of 20% of the data, he's protecting the agency. Now, he is one of the great brown-nosers of all time. And let's face it, I love Donald Trump, but he is a little susceptible to flattery. And there were stories that say he was under serious consideration to become Secretary of State.
Well, let me interrupt you. That shows how human Trump is. I mean, I've had conversations with him, not like anything like you, over 45 years. He's so gracious. He's so nice. And so he wants to believe in people. He's really a big sweetie pie.
Well, and he's accessible. He's extremely accessible, and he will always listen to various points of view. But I think he figured out before the election that, or probably shortly after the election, that Mike Pompeo was not only a Yale graduate, but he was part of the deep state. And that's why he convinced Trump to hold these documents back. I asked him, well, what, you've seen all the stuff, what's in there? And he said, it's so terrible, I can't tell you.
I should have asked that up front. Oh my God, I forgot that. Trump has said it. He said it's so. You said it first years ago. Now he said it again recently. Trump says it's so terrible, I can't tell you. What is it?
It is that the CIA, that the U.S. government was a major player in the assassination of an American president. By the way, once again, he told my friend Judge Andrew Napolitano the exact same thing around the same time. So now you have the confirmation, which you provided, of Johnson's role. That's the supervisory role. He is, as E. Howard Hunt, the famous CIA operative who just coincidentally is on the ground in Dallas in Dealey Plaza, pops up later as one of the Watergate burglars. How about that? There's a coincidence. 4 of the Watergate burglars just happened to be in Dallas that day. Alex, how likely is that? Except for they're all working for the agency. He says on his deathbed that he was a minor player in Dallas, but he says Lyndon Johnson was running the show. You have confirmed that now with this incredible audio. Now, when you add that to the fact that Malcolm Wallace, the man identified in the audio as having been recruited to kill Kennedy's, fingerprints are found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. Now you have confirmation when these release comes out. And look, we're looking at 5 million pages. So on the one hand, we say it's 20% of all the material, but on the other hand, it's still 5 million pages that have to be that are going to be released.
And the beauty is, just like WikiLeaks 8 years ago in 2 months, we can crowdsource the human AI to scan and ferret it all out. So we're only like, go through the timeline then. If it's 15 days under the law to come up with a plan, then they're going to try to give him some plan to release it. Then they're going to refuse him, just like he threw out this federal bureaucrat that wouldn't leave her office, this inspector general, using the federal police to do it. Do you expect they're going to release it in 7-8 days?
I think it's imminent. I also think that there'll be an effort once again by some inside the government to convince him to redact certain portions. But they tried that last time and it worked. I think he's never said this because it's not his style. I think he regrets not letting it all out last time. He will definitely.
I don't blame you for not being able to keep track of Trump. He said like a week ago, he said, I regret not releasing it all. That's in the news.
Yes, and he's not, and I don't think you're going to get the widespread redactions where they hold some portion back. Look,
no, he said a week ago, he goes, I should have released it all. I don't know. Go ahead.
I have seen that, but the whole sources and methods argument falls apart. The people involved are now all dead. There is nobody still alive.
If you don't want your methods exposed, it's because your methods are evil.
Right, exactly. If the CIA is involved in killing an American president, it's time for the American people to know that. Now, the mob's involvement is all documented in the book of Sam Giancana's daughter. Giancana is picked up on government bugs in his prison cell, talking about the assassination just before it happens and celebrating it after it happens. Jack Ruby, the Warren Commission tells us Jack Ruby has no known associations with organized crime. First of all, his real name is Jacob Rubenstein. He has worked for Lyndon Johnson in a patronage position. He's actually hired by Congressman Richard Nixon, who takes excess committee funds from the House Un-American Activities Committee, and at Johnson's request, he puts Rubenstein, Jack Ruby, on the payroll of the committee as an informant. So first of all, the idea that Ruby is not in the mob is an absurdity. And there's a very famous video, you can find it on YouTube, where Jack Ruby is coming down a hallway. He's in handcuffs. He's being led down a hallway by two Texas police officers, and reporters are shouting questions at him. They say, Jack, how could this happen? Who would do this? And Ruby says, look at the man at the top, the man at the very top. And they say, Jack, what are you trying to say? And Ruby says, if Adlai Stevenson had been vice president, this never would have happened. There it is, right there. Now, several times in this broadcast, Alex, we've seen the visual of Lyndon Johnson standing with his arm being sworn in on Air Force One. Why? He automatically legally became president of the United States the instant John Kennedy was declared dead. So there's no reason for that swearing in ceremony other than to twist the knife in Robert Kennedy. In fact, LBJ calls Robert F. Kennedy Sr. and asks him to look up the exact oath of office. And the judge who is swearing him in has just been denied a federal judgeship by JFK, but she gets her judgeship days after Johnson is sworn in. Johnson also pardons a man named Jack Halfer. Halfer, it works for the mob. Halfer has been delivering the bribes to Lyndon Johnson, who is covering up the illegal gambling operations run by organized crime in San Antonio and Houston and Dallas. So the organized crime piece of this comes into full focus. All the pieces of this puzzle are coming together, and I think President Trump is about to release the single most important piece, which is the CIA role.
Incredible, Roger. I mean, this is, people, I forget the exact quote. I was reading one of Winston Churchill's books, and he said, most people get run over by history in the road, and they get up and dust themselves off and ignore it because they don't know history just happened. To paraphrase, I think it's almost the exact quote, but like, you really know Trump 7 years. Trump really told you years ago, you said, it's so horrible, I can't believe the public can't handle it. And now he said that. I mean, it's not like we're like BlueAnon or QAnon, some, weird BS, like we don't have credibility. It's not like we didn't give people the exclusive tape 2 weeks ago. I mean, evil isn't the only power in the world. Good is there if we access it and is infinitely more powerful than evil. And this is really the great reveal. As the Bible says, nothing hidden will stay hidden. You throw it in the deepest ocean, it will be thrown back on the shore. It will be known. And the awesomeness of this, I've never been really scared of the globalists. I've been scared of losing because they're trying to enslave me and my family, and I have a will to fight. But I'm actually scared for the first time in my adult life of how awesome the change is. Because with change comes, it's a Chinese proverb, man, you live in interesting times, and their symbol for change is really, the definition is just one symbol, but it means incredible danger, incredible opportunity, incredible good things. I mean, are you pinching yourself? Because you've worked, 50, 60 years in politics. I mean, you've been in all these administrations, but am I wrong to say nothing even comes close to this moment? And are you scared? Because I'll be honest, I've been struggling for weeks to explain this because I couldn't really quantify it till just now. I'm scared, Roger, because we're winning and they're not. I don't think they're not going to pull something. I think anything's on the table here.
Alex, I must tell you, I'm not scared. I'm actually energized. In all honesty, I've already been through the valley of death, and I'm redeemed in the blood of the cross. So I think the time for truth-telling is finally here, and there are more epic bombshells to be revealed. Well, let's move on to the murder of Robert.
But let me quantify what I'm saying. I mean, I'm 5% scared, and I'm not amending what I said. I mean, I'm saying I'm scared we're not going to follow through on what the opportunity God gave us. I'm scared of losing the momentum. It's so sexy. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. It's so dynamic that I just don't even feel worthy of the moment. I mean, I don't think people understand what's been given to us, this new lease on life. That's what I'm trying to quantify here.
But the reason I'm not scared is because we have the leader we have. This guy is a Superman. I mean, he's a force of nature. He is born for this moment, and now he realizes that his life was specifically spared for this time. For this
and you've talked to him. I mean, I know you said privately his parents were religious. He believes in God. But at Butler, something happened, like in that prophecy that he'd be shot and came up. Has he said anything? I mean, on record, off record, has Trump talked about that with you? He said publicly God did this.
I'm not going to get into those conversations other than to say he said it publicly. That he realizes his life was spared for God for this purpose. He was put here to save the nation. He knows this. He knows it in his heart. Before, I think it was just a political victory. He ran because he loves the country and he hated to see what was happening to the country, and he saw that America was losing. Now, I think he sees the much, much bigger picture, and he realizes that this is his mission. This is why God spared him, for this moment. And this great reveal, the Kennedy assassination, the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Let's be clear about this. The Los Angeles Police Department could not have screwed this up more if they tried. Sirhan, the man convicted of killing Robert F. Kennedy, is at all times in front of him. He gets off 8 shots. Every one of those 8 shots is accounted for. None of them hit Senator Robert Kennedy. Thomas Noguchi, the LA County coroner, says in the autopsy, you can read it, that Bobby Kennedy is shot with 2 point-blank shots
from behind
of his head.
And we know it's a Skunks Works CIA guy that did it.
Yes, his name is Thane Eugene Caesar. He is a Filipino. He had been only recently hired to work at the Ambassador Hotel. He leaves immediately for the Philippines after the assassination. The police are still digging bullets out of the woodwork after Robert Kennedy is killed. We've never had a satisfactory explanation, but here's what we do know. We know that J. Edgar Hoover had a wiretap on Dr. Martin Luther King. And on that wiretap, King tells Hosea Williams that he is planning to endorse, he says, my main man, Bobby Kennedy, for president. Now, almost at the same time, Robert Kennedy, on the cusp of a huge victory in the California Democrat presidential primary, speaking to a student audience. He had always given lip service to the Warren Commission findings, although privately expressing skepticism about them. He's asked by a student, if you are elected, will you reopen the investigation into your brother's death? And he says, yes. And that is when he signs his own death warrant. So the combination, how long do you think it took Hoover to get that audio over to LBJ? And within weeks, both Robert F. Kennedy Sr. and Dr. Martin Luther King, who's come out against the Vietnam War, who's now gone well beyond civil rights to challenge Johnson on the war, they are both dead. I think that wiretap, ironically approved by Attorney General Kennedy, it lays the seeds for the murder of both Senator Kennedy and Dr. King. And that's what we're going to find out in all of these documents.
It's the right thing to do. It's historic, and it keeps the bad guys completely off balance.
I have one disappointment that I'm going to express, and that is I wish, and perhaps this is still possible, that President Trump had ordered a release of all the classified documents regarding the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan. And here is why. John Hinckley Jr., the man who is charged and convicted of the attempted assassination of Reagan, is at all times in front of Reagan, and he's shooting upward from a crouching position. Yet Reagan is shot from above and behind. Judy Woodruff, who was then, I think, with NBC, now I believe she's with PBS, I guess it is, reports seeing a man on a balcony in the Hilton Hotel above the entrance to the hotel, who she says has a gun. Go look for that on YouTube. It's not there. I have it, but it's not there. When they both James Brady, the president's press secretary, who was shot in the head, and President Reagan are both leave the site of the attempted assassination, but Brady arrives at George Washington Hospital 15 minutes before Reagan. Where is Reagan? Why isn't Reagan there first? He's the president of the United States. When he gets to George Washington Hospital, they x-ray him immediately in order to remove the bullet, and they can't find a bullet. They're about to sew him back up, which would have killed him, and one of the doctors decides to do a manual examination, and they find a flechette. A flechette is a projectile shot by a weapon designed by the CIA and exposed in the church hearings specifically for the purposes of assassination. But there is no report ever released by the U.S. government. There's a brief statement by Vice President George Bush, the man with the greatest, who would benefit the greatest from Reagan's death, that there was no conspiracy.
And you have Hinckley, according to the Denver Post, meeting with the Bush family or his brother in Denver like a week before.
And not only that, but I go one step further. Hinckley Sr. has an oil company bailed out by Zapata Oil, owned by George H.W. Bush, and he has a contract with the Defense Department for these refugee camps around the globe. There is a refugee camp under his contract in Laos, and it's interesting. Hinckley Jr. And Mark David Chapman, the man who killed John Lennon, are at that camp at the same time. This is a training camp, and yes, I suspect the use of MK Ultra. Once again, the other piece of evidence here, exposed by Tucker Carlson, and I gave him the original tape. One of the Watergate tapes that didn't get much attention is Richard Nixon. At the beginning of Watergate, he sees the gathering clouds of Watergate. He's meeting one-on-one with CIA Director Dick Helms, who he does not trust, and he is basically trying to leverage support from the CIA to try to cover up the deeds of Watergate. And he says, you know, if it hits the fan, Dick, a lot of dirty stuff happened over there. A lot of dirty stuff. I know it had to be done. Guatemala and worse. And Helms plays dumb. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. And Nixon says, let me put it to you this way. I know who shot John. There it is. Tucker Carlson played it for the world to hear. How come that Watergate tape never showed up on page 1 of the Washington Post? Could it be because Ben Bradley is a admitted CIA operative, the famous editor of the Washington Post? So further evidence of the CIA's involvement in the murder of JFK. We are, as you just said, a time where all truth will be revealed. There is no turning back now. They may try to kill Trump again, but they will not succeed because it is not God's will. It is not in God's plan. This is the shining city on the hill. He will not be stopped in his effort to renew America and give us the greatest strength, freedom, and prosperity the nation has ever had.
That's right. If God be with you, who can stand against you? And Trump is riding on a wave of global awakening. So in the time we have left, Roger, they almost completely destroyed you. You've been through hell. And I tell listeners this, you back Trump, he won. Roger, your films, everything you do, people need to support you. Do a great job. Us here at this broadcast, we can't keep doing this. I literally don't have the crew I need. This crew's been here since 6 a.m. They volunteered to stay and cut this interview up and post it tonight. They'll go home at 10 or 11. And this is how hard we're fighting. This is how hard Trump's fighting. This is not easy. We're not complaining, but we need your support. Roger, tell people about your shopping cart, what you do, how people support your shows, because everybody knows who you are, but we need to remember, we're not backed by the globalists. They don't have the power of the people. They still got the fiat currency. We'll get that soon. I think Trump's going to probably abolish the Federal Reserve or nationalize it, but this is us winning the battles. We've got to accelerate it to win the war. Roger, tell us about all you do.
Yeah, my book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, you can get it by going to themanwhokilledkennedy.com, themanwhokilledkennedy.com. Now, if you choose, and you'll get it signed there, by the way, if you wish, and personalized. Now, you can go to a multinational corporation like Amazon that hates your guts. You can buy it there. But if you do, always opt for the paperback version because it has 3 additional chapters. By the way, I'm going to update it soon with a new chapter because there's new information that I have found. For example, I found the switchboard operator at the hotel in the hospital in Los Angeles where RFK was taken after he was shot. Lyndon Johnson calls repeatedly screaming at her, "Is he dead yet? Is he dead yet?" It's in the book, and I have confirmed it. Just one example. The Kennedy family, with Robert Kennedy dying in the LA hospital, they believe that there is a Boston-based brain surgeon who could save RFK's life. They go to Vice President Hubert Humphrey. Humphrey orders a U.S. military plane to fly the surgeon immediately to LA. Johnson finds out about it, cancels the flight, reams Humphrey, says you have no authority as vice president to order that plane. These are just some of the incredible facts that I've learned since I wrote the book. There are going to be a number of other updates. You can go to StoneZONE.com and go to the store there. You can get my expose on the Bushes, the Bush crime family. You can get my expose on the Clintons war on women. You can get the true story of how Donald Trump started the greatest revolution in American political history back in 2016, in the making of the president 2016. You can get your iconic Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirt. Just go to the shop or the store at StoneZone.com. And folks, I worked at InfoWars for almost 18 months. I did a 4 o'clock in the afternoon show with my great friend Owen Schroyer, who's also been persecuted as they persecuted Alex, as they persecuted me, as they persecuted President Trump. Those are some of the happiest times of my life. But this is why they're so desperate to shut you down, Alex. This has never been about money. It's not about money. It's about silencing you. They're not interested in the dough. They're interested.
Oh, they wouldn't even take a settlement. They've admitted that. So I want people to understand, we're winning the war. I keep saying it, but we've got to win it. We haven't completed the war yet. So in closing, Roger, we've seen Trump's last 9 days. Devastating, unbelievable, historic, a man on fire, a man on a mission. Give us any preludes about what's next on the agenda. Obviously trying to end the Ukraine war, stabilize the economy, have ICE out there showing the human trafficking that goes right to the pedophile networks, put them off balance, indicting federal employees that quit their job but didn't do it and didn't tell the feds and had another job totally legal. I mean, he's putting them on notice. This Kash Patel, these next, I mean, do you predict RFK Jr. gets confirmed? Tulsi, Kash, all this. What's happening there?
Let's get into it. First of all, I think Kash Patel is among his very best appointments. I have thought that the power of Big Pharma may be too great and that Robert Kennedy faces an uphill battle. But in the end, it won't matter, because if he is not confirmed, the president can certainly designate him as special assistant to the president and give him authority over the FDA, the CDC, and
that's right.
NIH.
To have the presidential directives to the agencies regardless. Or he could couldn't he do a recess appointment, or couldn't he do a?
Well, he could do a recess appointment, but if he does a recess appointment, then it has to be a recess appointment for all of his appointees. Look, here's the perfect example. Tom Homan, the toughest customer I know. How did his Senate confirmations go? Oh, he didn't need to go to the Senate because the president made him special assistant to the president for immigration and gave him authority over ICE and Homeland Security. And he's out there doing the job. Now, this isn't my preference. I'm for RFK's confirmation. And folks, if you're sitting and watching this, you ought to be emailing or calling your senator and demanding that they vote for the confirmation of Robert F. Kennedy. He's the right man for this job. Tulsi Gabbard, who is, I have to tell you, the most talented communicator politically that I've seen since Ronald Reagan. I'll say it right here on your show, Alex. She's going to be the first woman president of the United States. Not Hillary Clinton, not Kamala Harris, who she destroyed in that debate, but Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. She's going to be president of the United States. She is now a Republican because the Democrat Party left her. The Democrat Party she started in was no longer the party of peace and free speech. It became a party of authoritarianism and censorship. Kash Patel, I think, will be confirmed. Tulsi is in a battle because this position, the Director of National Intelligence, puts her at the nexus of all this dirty laundry that we're talking about, as well as moving forward. So, as I said in the very opening segment here, cleaning up the Justice Department, vitally important. Alex, among those fired was J.P. Cooney, who was the prosecutor in my case. He knew during my trial that Judge Amy Berman Jackson withheld exculpatory evidence from my attorneys. My attorneys asked for Robert Mueller's entire unredacted report. She denied it to them. She said she would read the report in her chambers and give us the relevant sections. How did she forget to give us the section where Mueller himself admits, and we only know this because BuzzFeed filed a lawsuit against the Justice Department and won, thinking the report would further embarrass me when it exonerates me. He found
no, I agree. So it's amazing what's happening, and then you've got the firing of 18 inspector generals that are just political witch hunters, and the woman refusing to leave, the USDA inspector general refusing to leave, and Trump just threw her ass out. I mean, this is crazy.
No, the inspector generals weren't doing their job. See, they're supposed to be a check on the power of the agency. But Mr. Horowitz, in his investigation...
Instead, they became a check unconstitutionally on the executive.
Exactly. Mr. Horowitz, who was the Department of Justice's Inspector General, never addressed the fact, I'll say it again, there was no online hack of the Democrat National Committee. There is no forensic evidence that proves that. Just because John Brennan, the admitted communist, the admitted Islamic convert, the man who signed the visas for 4 of the hijackers that attacked this country on 9/11, that guy claims that there was a online hack by Russian intelligence of the DNC. Bill Binney, the counterintelligence expert from the CIA, will tell you that the forensic evidence shows the exact opposite, that the information stolen from the DNC was downloaded to some kind of portable drive and taken out the back door. Brennan last week saying that Tulsi Gabbard would be dangerous. Please, dude, give me a break. Now, here's one key point, Alex. People keep saying, oh, Trump's on a retribution, revenge. No, they know that none of these bad guys will ever be found guilty in a court in the District of Columbia. It's not going to happen. That's why they need to have field hearings and call those who got these preemptive pardons to hearings out in the country in other jurisdictions. So when they perjure themselves, and they will, they can be tried there. That is the key to getting to the bottom of the Russian collusion hoax, the Ukrainian impeachment hoax, and the January 6th hoax.
Incredible. So Trump said publicly, you said it first. What's the exact quote? The public will be, it's too shocking to even tell the public. Requote that, and then 15 days to agree on the plan. They're going to try to sabotage it like 5 years ago. Give us the specific technicals of that, because you're the expert.
Again, I think he's made it very, very clear. He said what we're going to see is horrible, too horrible for him even to tell me. But he did say, someday you'll know it all. We're about to know it all. No redactions, nothing held back. The full truth about the murder of JFK, the murder of Robert F. Kennedy. And Alex, people don't know this, but the King family brought a civil lawsuit against the FBI, the Secret Service, the Memphis Police, and they won. Which means a civil court judge ruled that the
wasn't
government...
that Culpepper? I mean, I had him on at the time, yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a book that is almost impossible to read. It's so ponderous. And then Phil Nelson, who recently passed away, who's written a great multi-volume book exposing Lyndon Johnson, wrote a book on King's murder, which makes a very compelling case that James Earl Ray is not the shooter.
Sure, so bottom line, we're living in a mega historical time. And who's to watch in the Democratic Party? I mean, I don't see how they even return if their party falls just from voters not supporting them. We need a two-party system at least. How do you see that breaking? I mean, I know that's off in the future, but...
Well, look, Gavin Newsom clearly still wants to be governor. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, I've had it up to here with Josh Shapiro. Get it? I think the problem here is there are no more moderate Democrats. There are no more working people in the Democrat Party. They have been taken over by a radical group of socialists. But equally dangerous are the feckless, gutless, lily-livered, spineless country club establishment Republicans who make Mike Johnson's life miserable. They don't want to fight for the American people. Alex, people need to forget Republican Democrat. That's not the divide. The divide is between the globalists and those who love freedom. That's why we've realigned ourselves. We're with Robert Kennedy. We're with Tulsi Gabbard. We're with Rod Blagojevich. We're with these Democrats who believe in freedom and common sense. The divide is no longer between the two major parties. It's almost meaningless. And I say that as a former young Republican national chairman who loves the party of Lincoln and the party of Eisenhower, the party of Goldwater, the party of Reagan, and the party of Trump. But let's face it, the America First movement, the Trump movement, is much bigger, much broader than the Republican Party could ever.
No, you're right. It's ours to lose. StoneZONE.com. Isn't it great to not see Kushner anywhere?
I'm not going to comment on that. I'm happy that Donald Trump is doing everything I dreamed that he would do. Alex,
I know you don't want to get in an inner fight. You're a nice guy around the family, but man, we don't ever see him anymore.
I wanted Donald Trump to run for president for 30 years. I knew that he had what it took not to just be a great presidential candidate, but to be a great, great president. And now you see that greatness.
We got to close in this. We got to close in this, and I got to go, and you got to go. And the crew's been here since 6 a.m. Roger, though, the left thought they could steal it. The landslide was so big they couldn't. I watched the inauguration. You were there. The Democrats on their side looked like they were zombies. I mean, they look devastated. What's the word on how the deep state's feeling right now?
Look, they seem to be dispirited. They seem to be disorganized, but never underestimate their deceptiveness and the evil. I was talking to some guys from Las Vegas the other day, Alex, and they want to build a life-size Mount Rushmore in Nevada that would be Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, and Donald Trump. That's what we need. That is that will be a monument to what Trump is going to do for this country.
But first, we've got to save the economy, secure the nation, and stop World War III. StoneZONE.com, the best-selling author of the men who killed Kennedy. Roger Stone, incredible interview. Thank you for the exclusive.
Alex, God bless you and Godspeed.
Well, folks, an honor to share the screen with Roger and Alex Jones. I'm your co-host, Troy Smith, here filling in for the last portion. You know, Roger is so right. President Trump has really broken the chains of regular partisan politics in Washington, D.C. He has, by bringing in people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an independent, and people like Tulsi Gabbard, he has reset the entire partisan political machine in Washington, D.C., breaking the lines of party and showing us that the true alignment that exists between people like Gabbard and Trump and Kennedy and whatsoever are about peace. It's about peace. It's about prosperity. It's about making America great again. The fact that people of all political likes can come together, can coalesce around an idea like that is exactly why President Trump won such a commanding victory in the 2024 election. And it's why we're seeing opposition to so many of Trump's nominees on Capitol Hill today. We have a clip that I want to play here because it's so important. Adam Schiff today attempted to ruffle the feathers of Kash Patel, who's been a guest on this show, who we love very much and who will make an excellent FBI director. Adam Schiff, who was involved in creating the Russian collusion hoax. Adam Schiff, who is one of the most corrupt members of Congress to ever exist, who now calls himself a senator out in California. He was trying to grill Kash Patel, who put this pencil-necked senator in his place. Want to roll that clip, and when we come back, we'll get back to what we're talking about here, the latest news of the day.
You're being considered for director of the FBI, and here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associating with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire life.
It in song,
and I did not make a single dime out of it.
In song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that answer.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr. Schiff?
Yes or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
If you were the FBI director and you promoted a song with someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff, I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16 years of government service.
And yet you did all these things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You can say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters. It's what you did that matters. Well, let me ask you about something else that you did, Mr. Patel. Did you claim that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago? Did you claim that?
In what proceeding?
To the public, ever. Did you tell anyone that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago?
From publicly available information, President Trump issued a declassification order on a variety of materials.
No, I'm just asking you, did you tell the public, did you tell anyone, did you make the claim that Donald Trump had declassified those hundreds of classified documents that were at Mar-a-Lago? Did you make that claim publicly?
From my best of my recollection, I said President Trump issued a declassification order to a large number of documents.
Yeah, and were you present when he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents?
Senator, I'm not saying he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents. I said President Trump declassified a large number of documents, and I would hope this committee and the rest of Congress would want to get those documents to the American people.
Mr. Patel, before a president or anyone declassified documents, wouldn't you want to know whether making the public would cause sources to be killed? Wouldn't you want to know that before you just declare they're all declassified? Wouldn't that be the responsible thing for a president to do?
It was the responsible thing for us to do. That's why we declassified the Nunes memo.
And did Donald Trump declassify?
And no one died.
And did Donald Trump ever ask any of the agencies who produced those documents whether declassifying them would put people's lives at risk? Did he ever do that to your knowledge, Kash Patel?
I don't know that he didn't. Do you?
No, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? So let me just ask, Mr. Chairman, if you would, Mr. Patel has said he has no problem. He would support the release of his grand jury testimony in that case. I would ask you, Mr. Chairman, ranking member, to join me in requesting, with Mr. Patel's approval, the release of those grand jury transcripts. And I would also ask Mr. Patel whether you support the release of Volume 2 as it pertains to you of the special counsel's report. Any reference to you in the report, to your truthfulness, will you support the release to this committee of those sections of Volume 2 of special counsel's report?
I support following the law and providing whatever information the law requires.
Well, you said to the Wall Street Journal that you support transparency. Here's your chance, Mr. Patel. You support release of that to this committee, yes or no?
Your time's up. Before
Kash Patel will make a fantastic FBI director, and Adam Schiff, we know what kind of congressman he is. We know what kind of senator he is. He's a scumbag who supports the worst infiltration of our intelligence agencies that we've ever seen, the worst abuse of power that we've ever seen. Adam Schiff was complicit in that. And he's also a leaker and a liar. So Adam Schiff, who goes into classified meetings, comes out, tells lies to the media in order to promote his candidacy and raise funds for his political campaigns, is a disgrace. Kash Patel, who's been a guest on this show, will make a fantastic FBI director. Well, folks, unfortunately, we are out of time today. I am Troy Smith, your co-host here. If you want to see what I'm doing, go head over to slingshot.news. I hope you will go to StoneZONE.com and check that out. Please remember, if you want to support the show here, you can go to mypillow.com. Use promo code STONE at checkout. You use promo code STONE. You just type it in there, and then all of a sudden, you will not only get a discount on your products, you'll support what we're doing here. You'll help Roger and Nydia defend themselves. Roger and his wife Nydia from the horrible legal attacks that go on against them constantly, folks. Again, my name is Troy Smith. It's been my honor to fill in for you here on this short term of Thursday. We will see you back in the Stone Zone tomorrow. God bless and have a beautiful night.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?